What's up, hybrids? Welcome back to another episode of the Fandom Hybrid Podcast. This is Hanako, and I am here with Anthony, Lorrie, and Mike. And we are changing things up a little bit on the podcast today. This is something that we've been talking about doing for a while now, but we mostly do TV show reviews and movie reviews, but we're actually going to do a top 10 list today. And it's inspired by seeing everybody else talk about their Marvel top 10 for last year. We had 9 different products come out from Marvel, plus one that was not quite Marvel, but kind of sort of Marvel. So we all have different opinions about which ones were the best, which ones were not necessarily the worst, but kind of ranked lower. So we just decided that we were going to go ahead and talk about those. So this is our Marvel 2021 countdown from the Fandom Hybrid Podcast. But before we get started, we have an honorable mention that needs to be brought up because Anthony has some maybe not some feelings about it, but you guys can't see our screen names on the video, but Anthony says MODOK gets no love.
Yeah, that it's a show that we did not cover, and I don't think any of us watched. Is MODOK on Hulu. I tried. I think I have it queued up, and I'll I don't know, start clipping my toenails and just lose interest. Because it's not like MODOK is like this beloved character. Like who thought that it would be a great show, which is one of the reasons I think I want to watch it, is to figure out why. Why?
Because I never had even heard of this character until they started announcing plans for a show. The only thing I know about this is the character that's got the really big head, right?
Yeah.
That's all I know of this character.
But I think he's from AIM, and the last time we heard of AIM was with whatchamacallit?
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that and what's his name? Guy Pearce played whatchamacallit?
Advanced in Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's right.
AIM was his company.
Yeah. See, MODOK is one of those characters. Either you love him or you hate him, and he is annoying, but he's extremely smart and extremely power based. But it's like half the time he's considered a joke. The other half you're like, oh, him again. It's
apparently
it's interesting you say that, because I would have said he's a character that you either hate him or you hate him.
It's like from what I saw.
I'm sorry.
What I was saying is, from what I saw on like the episode and a half, 2 episodes that I actually watched of it, it's like they were trying to show they were literally trying to show like a behind the scenes of him, like his family and all this other stuff. Like, it was really it was okay, but it was kind of contrived, and I was like, I can. Like, my life's not going to be any worse if we're not seeing this. So, there are way better things for me to watch.
Whenever MODOK shows up, it's the same thing for me when I'm watching a DC comic property and the Royal Flush Gang shows up. I'm like, oh God, here we go again. I hate the Royal Flush Gang. Like, with a biting passion. Amos Fortune, Roulette, they can go kick rocks. So when I see MODOK, I'm like,
Okay, well, is that something that you guys think you want to watch and talk about? Because again,
no.
Okay. You just wanted to mention the fact that it was a Marvel property.
It was one of the Marvel properties that came out last year that they don't really promote. No one really talks about. I just wanted to give it a mention.
Okay. Honorable mention.
That was nice of you.
Yes.
All right. So we're going to get into it. Just to refresh everyone on what came out last year for Marvel, they released 5 TV shows, 4 movies, and then there was Venom, which is technically not a Marvel cinematic property, but it kind of sort of got pulled into it briefly and then pushed back out, and we'll talk about that later. So we had Wanda Vision come out, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, and Hawkeye. Those were the Disney Plus series. And then we had Eternals, Black Widow, Shang-Chi, and Spider-Man No Way Home as far as the film properties. So those are the ones that we are going to rank and we're going to discuss them just briefly in this episode. We have covered the majority of these on the podcast, so you can actually go to our website, www.fandomhybrid.com, and you can find our discussions for those. The only ones we have not discussed yet is Eternals, and that's because it's coming out on Disney Plus next week, and we wanted to wait until Lori was able to see it, because Lori is not doing movie theaters at this moment because of the COVID pandemic, and she's on the West Coast where it's a little bit worse. So we wanted to get her thoughts on it. So we haven't covered Eternals yet. We haven't done Venom yet because we just have had so much on our plate that we just haven't gotten around to it yet. And I think that's actually it as far as the ones that we didn't cover, but we'll go into it. Anthony, you had a question or a comment?
Well, I think I wanted to mention, you said Venom was kind of not really a Marvel MCU thing. And I was gonna say Spider-Man No Way Home isn't either, really, because it's Sony and not Disney.
Yeah, but Tom Holland's Spider-Man,
either here nor there.
Like Tom Holland's Spider-Man has been completely in the MCU. Like we haven't seen him outside of the MCU, like say Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man or Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Like they have no connection to the MCU in those properties, but his Spider-Man is part of the MCU, even though technically speaking it's a Sony product. That's what I meant as far as that. So that's
why I said never mind.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess we're gonna start from worst to first, huh? Let's do it that way. Let's go with number 10. We're gonna go in the way that I see you guys on my screen. So we'll go with Anthony, Mike, and then Lori. And again, for people who are just watching our videos for the first time, the reason why Lori is not on screen is because due to her job, she cannot actually have her face on videos for stuff like this. So she's here. We just can't see her, but you will hear her. Number 10. Number 10, out of the 10 we mentioned, I have Venom listed last. Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Anthony, what about you?
I also have Venom.
Okay.
Let There Be Carnage.
Okay, that's two for 4. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I have Venom too, but it's like I feel bad because I've been waiting so long to see Woody Harrelson as Venom, as Carnage. I thought he was going to be like the perfect Carnage. He was good, but it's just like in reference to all these other movies, it just did not come up to snuff.
Yeah, I think I have it for the same reason. Like somebody has to be last, unfortunately. And in comparisons to all the other ones, it just kind of was that for me. But Lori, what did you have listed for number 10?
I have Venom for 2 reasons. 1, I haven't seen it. And 2, I have never, ever cared for the character. I mean, Eddie Brock and all that, it's nice. It's a main Spider-Man villain friend / type of a thing. But he has never appealed to me. And even when they let, Dan Slott play around with it, a little bit of Joey Quesada doing some stuff, never been a favorite.
Okay, I get it. Okay, so since we all have Venom listed as the last, we'll just go ahead and have a little bit of discussion about that. I think, Mike, you mentioned yours. For me, Venom, Venom has always been fun for me. You know what I'm saying? Watching the first movie and then watching this one, it was a lot of fun. Now, as far as storyline and characters, again, it doesn't compare with the rest of the Marvel properties that we've been watching, but I like watching Woody Harrelson in anything because he is such a fabulous actor, and he can pull off psychotic and humorous at the same time, and it just looks so natural. I mean, even me thinking back to I cannot think, my mind just went into a brain freeze, but the movie that he did with Juliette Lewis, like way back, what was that
Natural
film?
Born Killers.
Yes, that one. Even just back then, he has this charisma about him where he can play somebody so deadly and psychotic, and you still want to root for him for some reason. I don't know what it is, but I mean, he's just always appealed. Like, I've been a fan of his for a very long time, since I was a child, Cheers. But yeah, it just didn't have enough to kind of push itself over the other Marvel properties for me. What about you, Anthony?
I didn't even there wasn't even enough to compare it to the other Marvel movies. It was just I'm like Mike. I was excited. Okay, the first one was fun.
Mhm.
I it wasn't great, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was funny. I got excited seeing Will Harrelson was going to be a Carnage. I was like, I couldn't wait to see it. And then There Be Carnage comes out, and the movie's terrible. It just is. I mean, the storyline kind of is bad. There really isn't any chemistry between Venom and Eddie Brock anymore. It's just this weird. It's not even like a buddy cop thing. It's just this weird, stupid act, the vaudeville act going on, and it's awful. And it just didn't do anything for me. And Woody Harrelson couldn't save it because he just seemed to be plodding right along, like, oh, I guess I'm in this movie and I have to play a bad guy. And his charisma wasn't enough to carry the movie.
Right.
It just wasn't enough.
Okay.
That's why I have it last.
Yeah.
I was sitting there laughing, like I wasn't entertained. I was laughing at it because it's like a spectacle. I'm watching this train wreck, and it shouldn't be funny. It's just tragic.
Yeah. I think the best part of that movie for me was in the end credit scene. And like I said, we haven't talked about the movie on the podcast yet. Lori hasn't seen it, but she doesn't care about being spoiled because she doesn't care about the character or the movie. But the end credit scene, we see Eddie Brock and Venom. They're on a beach in Mexico. And like the part of the end credit scene that we see, they're in a hotel room. I think they were in a hotel room, and then you see this kind of light and something strange happens with them. And then on the TV in front of them appears J. Jonah Jameson talking about the reveal that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And this comes from the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. And there was something that Venom mentioned earlier saying that he was telling Eddie that his species they're not necessarily individual. They kind of share a hive mind. So no matter where they are in the universe or multiverse, apparently, they share memories. So when this newscast came up, Venom looks at the screen and he was like, I know that guy, which is weird because this Venom apparently takes place in a different, it's in a different universe than our MCU. Or our universe. And so what happens is at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, there is a second end credit scene where Venom and Eddie Brock, apparently with that little light, pulled them into our universe. And we'll talk a little bit about Spider-Man No Way Home. And he's sitting there at the bar trying to figure out, okay, so you have these superheroes. So he talks briefly about Iron Man. He talks about the Hulk, and he talks about Thanos a little bit, and then he gets pulled back out of this universe. But there's a little bit of the Venom stuff that
aliens don't want stones. They don't want stones.
They
want to eat brains.
Yeah. So, but that's why I said at the beginning, it's kind of pulled into the MCU and then kind of thrust back out, because for those few minutes, he was part of our world and he was learning about our Avengers and Thanos and everything that happened here. Don't know if that's going to play into the wider picture. Like, I know that Sony is supposed to be doing 3 more Spider-Man movies. Don't know if they're going to include Tom Holland, but we don't know what the storyline is going to be, or, we don't know what's going to happen with that. So maybe they'll bring Venom back for these movies, and maybe it'll be a better iteration of the character. I mean, I didn't hate Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock. I thought he was great as a character, but like you said, Anthony, I think with this movie it became more of, and you described it perfectly, like a vaudeville act. It was kind of like Laurel and Hardy, like slapstick, like one person is made to be the dunce and the other person is supposed to be the smarter, more aggressive one, and that is kind of how it was with that film. So I agree with you. But moving on, let's go to number 9. So I picked Eternals as my number 9, which is weird that it's so far down because I actually really loved the movie. But in comparisons to all the other things, all the other properties had characters that I was already invested in and where their stories were going. And the Eternals was new. We had new characters, and it's kind of, I feel like, one of the main jump off points for the new phase of Marvel films. So I wasn't as emotionally attached to that one, even though I did love the film. And even though it had my babies, Richard Madden and Kit Harington in it, it just still wasn't enough to make it towards the top of my list. So Anthony, what about you? Number 9.
I have Black Widow as number 9.
Oh, so far down?
Yes.
Okay.
And I know it might be a little controversial,
Okay.
but I think the Taskmaster has a lot to do with it. I think that was
you guys had a problem with Taskmaster.
that was
Look at Mike's face.
The worst choice they made.
I was almost over it.
For that story is just and that actually killed the movie for me.
Okay.
Like, the Taskmaster just killed it. There was no way to come back from that for me. I enjoyed a lot of the comedy and learning about Natasha's family. The Red Guardian was funny, and who doesn't love Rachel Weisz? But
I don't know.
In a skin tight leather white suit. Yes, I 100% agree with you. Yes.
But the Taskmaster, that I just found that last third of the movie absolutely ridiculous, and that's why it's so far down on my list. Okay. Slightly above a vaudeville act.
Okay, Mike, what about you?
All right, so for reference, I did have Black Widow as number 9, but I actually switched and I put What If at number 9. Now,
really?
Okay, now let me.
Wow.
Okay, let me explain.
Okay.
This is like almost an impossible task to rank these things, so I had to like kind of do it as far as like kind of impactful things in my opinion. So there's a reason I put that I moved Black Widow from being at number 9, but it's like What If was just, it was good. It was probably one of my favorite things. It was a really good thing. I think it was very ambitious by Marvel. It's just that when I get to my next one, I have a reason, but it's just it was kind of, as far as the other ones go, it was just not where I would have put it. So yes, What If is number 9 for me.
Okay. Lori, what about you?
I'm gonna get hell.
Uh-oh.
Loki.
Ooh.
Well, I'm actually not surprised because you weren't really into Loki until like the last 2 episodes. So I'm really not surprised that it ranked low for you.
The reason why it did rank so low for me is that my husband and I watched the first couple episodes. First episode was awesome, and he loves Loki. And we were watching it, and then I started watching it by myself. And by the time we got to the 3rd episode, I'm like, okay, this isn't what I really thought it was going to be, because we had the excitement of Wanda Vision. We had the excitement of Falcon and Winter Soldier. And then you get this time variance. And see, Loki did a plus for me because it reminded me on how great and how much I was missing good Doctor Who episodes. Because to me, I was just watching a longer version of Doctor Who. So when you get to the whole with the female Loki and the time variance, and I was excited for Owen Wilson. He didn't really do much. I got this thing where I was like, And then, of course, Kang. I mean, the actor is fine, but I thought he was very buffoonish in his portrayal. That's just me. And I did not care about it, and I have not gone back and looked at it. Mark hasn't finished watching it. It's my number 9.
Okay. All right. So piggybacking off of that, Loki was actually my number 8. And again, has nothing to do with the show, because I actually did like the show. I didn't like it as much as I thought I was gonna like it. Especially in comparison to some of the other shows or movies. But I think for me, getting to see Loki shine a little bit more and get out of the shadow of Thor, and seeing that he was a little bit more complex as a character than we've been given in the MCU, in the wider MCU, that was the appeal of the show for me, to see him have layers to his character. The reveal of He Who Remains was fun for me because I like Jonathan Majors. He did have a little bit of a comical reveal to the character, but from what I understand, that was kind of on purpose, and also because there needed to be some kind of I guess boundary, or some kind of, like, we needed to know that this was not technically Kang the Conqueror. This was a different version of the character, and I think he played it a little bit differently than he plans to play Kang in Ant-Man. So but I did love the show. It's just, it wasn't enough to rank it higher on my list in comparisons to some of the others. So what about you, Anthony? What was 8?
8 for me was Eternals.
Okay.
For a lot of the same reasons. Was it Mike you had at 9? No, you
I haven't done
haven't
Eternals yet.
That was
so
me.
That was you.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the same stuff. I liked it a little more. I don't feel like they went as far as they could have as far as the story goes.
Mm-hmm.
It really felt like an origin story, like the first movie of a trilogy that's going to give it, kind of like Captain America Winter Soldier,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't a great movie, but now that you've seen all the other it's not.
Did you say?
Yes, I did. You heard me. It's not a great movie. However, it is much better now that you know where the story has gone for Steve Rogers.
Okay.
So watching it now, you're like, oh, okay, it's actually pretty good. But when it first came out, and then I'm like, that's it. So it's kind of how I feel about Eternals right now. I think time will tell how good it is, but for now, it's an 8. It's an 8 for me.
Okay. What about you, Mike?
All right, my number 8 is Black Widow, and it was number 9, but I moved it up only for Florence Pugh. That's basically.
I figured that was going to be your reasoning.
Because it's like, I mean, they introduced her, and she's going to be a titular character, an important character going forward in this phase of the Marvel universe. Mm-hmm. And she did such a good job with this portrayal, and she really is one of my favorite characters right now in the MCU. Mm-hmm. I mean, plus I gotta be honest, I was kind of underwhelmed by this movie. Okay. Don't hate me, but just like Anthony said, and just like every time it's brought up, that fucking Taskmaster bullshit just gets me, because it's wrong. They didn't have to do it. It was unnecessary. It was heinous, and they could have done anything else with any other character, but they decided to fuck with the Taskmaster. She's lucky she's not number 10. But yeah, number 8 for me is Black Widow.
Okay, Lori, what about you?
Black Widow.
Oh, okay.
Taskmaster. Let's just say that I knuckled through the movie only because I was interested to see that Black Widow finally got her own movie. Years after they done the movie, which I thought was a travesty. I like Scarlett Johansson. I think that her character was interesting enough, especially in the early MCU movies. She gets her movie, and it's just okay. The Taskmaster thing, I think I could have overlooked it if they had made him a guy. Having the girl as spoiler kind of took me out of it because it was so different from what we're used to. The other thing that I didn't care for is that it just was a boring movie. I mean, Florence Pugh couldn't save it. Scarlett Johansson certainly couldn't save it, and I'm sitting there just bored out of my skull. So yeah, mine in this round is Black Widow because I thought the movie could have done better, and it was about 5 years too late to give us the movie.
Okay, so Black Widow was my number 7 for that same reason that you just said, Lori. I feel like it could have been a better movie if they had actually released it within the timeline that it was supposed to be released, but giving us Natasha's story after we already know her to be dead, I think was a huge mistake. I still enjoyed the movie. I think I thought the movie was very entertaining, but like a lot of people said, it felt like it was a Black Widow movie, but it didn't feel like Natasha's movie. It felt like a jumping off point for Yelena, which I don't have a problem with because Yelena is one of my, like Mike said, she has become one of my favorite characters in the MCU. Even in the short time that we've seen her or known her, you know, we saw her in the film and then she appeared in the Hawkeye series. So what we've seen of her, I'm enjoying. I just felt like they should have given us that film years ago. And I think that I think for a lot of people that would have explained Natasha's sacrifice a little bit better, you know, because it would have, and maybe even not so much more that, because I think we understood it a little bit more after watching the Hawkeye series and seeing what Yelena's story was. But I think the action scenes were good. I think it was nice to see Natasha get to have a story on her own where she was the focus in that sense and not as one of the guys. You get what I'm saying? As far as with the Avengers group, you know, she's always been portrayed as like she's the mother of the group. She's the one who's always picking up after the guys and she's the one always holding them together. So it was nice to see her have some autonomy from the group. I just wish they would have done it a little bit earlier within the MCU so that we could probably have a better understanding of her character. But I still enjoyed it. It was a fun movie. I went to go see it in 4DX, so I got to do it with all the motion and the water from like rain hitting me in the wind. So that was a fun experience too.
Yeah,
but
that was just so distracting though. It's just like I almost got launched out of my seat with that too. It's like I was adjusting myself at the wrong time. Went, whoop. I was like, what?
Yeah, I enjoyed it though. It was fun. So, but yeah, it's number 7 on my list. So, Anthony, what you got?
Before I reveal my number 7,
Uh-oh.
I think I said Captain America Winter Soldier, or did I say Captain America the First Avenger?
You said Winter Soldier.
I meant the First Avenger.
Okay, that makes
more sense.
Yes.
Yes, that makes more
First
sense.
Avenger. Okay, so my number 7 was Hawkeye.
Wow.
Because it was a slow burn for me. Like it didn't start out great. Like I wasn't too excited about it. I was excited about it before it aired, but after the first episode, I was like, okay. You know, it took about 3 episodes before I was like, okay, I kind of like it. So it was like this slow burn with a crescendo where it finished strong, but it started off really weak for me. Okay. So that's why I have it number 7. Okay. I mean, I like the character. I'm not the biggest fan of the character, but I see the potential if he wants to continue doing this, like being the mentor for the Young Avengers, if they ever do a Young Avengers show. I think he'd be perfect. Okay. But for his own show, there were other people in the show much more interesting than him. Echo was more interesting. Jacques was more interesting. Just You know,
His name was Jack. No.
No, we call him Jacques.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Hawkeye's my 7.
All right. My number 7 is Eternals. The only reason I have Eternals over that is because of the grand scope of the Eternals, like how the effect. I was impressed by the effects, if not so much like how it was written. Like it did drag in certain spots, but overall, I thought the way they did it was outstanding, and to have the way they set up all the different Eternals and have them be told so much different than the next one was really cool. The twist at the end I kind of expected it, like towards the middle of the movie. I kind of expected what was going to happen, like who betrayed. I kind of suspected it, but it didn't really hurt anything for me. The post-credit scene was pretty damn good. That had got me really curious to see how a couple of them did. Like the one with of the Black Knight was pretty bad. I was like, okay, I'm ready for that. But then the other one with Harry Styles like got me, because I was like, because someone had said it, and I know Hanako was mad that it got spoiled. Like, but I'm actually intrigued by how he's going to be represented. So, I mean, just for the potential of the future of how it's going to be in the future, I got Eternals at number 7.
Okay, my number 7 is also the Eternals, for 2 reasons. One, I haven't seen it yet, so I'm interested to see how it's going to go. For me, it falls into the same category as the Inhumans and any other family powered group that isn't the X-Men or the Avengers, that has a family type setting. Because once you get into that era type of stuff in the Marvel comic book universe or just MCU, it gets weird quick because they designate them as weird. I do know what happened in the movie, and I know about the ending, and I know who showed up, and he might be related to somebody we've seen earlier. My thing is that listening to different podcasts, Comic Geek Speak being one of them, listening to a couple of reviews, now playing with Arnie and his group, I get the feeling that the director did a good job directing the movie, but whoever wrote this movie needs to be taken out back, talk to the ghost of Stanley, given a stack of essentials, and go read, and then come back to me, because it just sounds like a hot mess. So that's why it was my number 7.
Okay. Let's see, number 6. I actually switched my number 6s. I had Hawkeye as number 6, but I think I'm going with What If, just because I enjoyed Hawkeye a little bit more. What If was a lot of fun because we got to see different iterations of characters that we all know and love, as far as like, Peggy Carter being Captain Carter instead of Steve being Captain America, getting to see the non-enhanced version of Steve still play a good part in the show, but he's not that that main hero like we used to seeing. We got to see different versions of T'Challa. We got to see a very interesting version of Killmonger. It was a lot of fun exploring those different variants, I guess is the best way to say it, of those characters. But the Watcher got on my nerves. He really did. He did. I have to say,
I cannot interfere.
Except
Unless
for when it's convenient for you. But yeah, I did enjoy the show, but the Watcher kind of worked my nerves. But given what we've seen in the trailer for Doctor Strange, knowing that one of those characters may end up showing up in Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness, that's interesting. So I like what it did as far as showing us how, not necessarily how the multiverse works, but just how different the multiverse can be, like the different universes, and how people who are the same can either be similar Just like Natasha's character, she was able to go to another world that lost their Black Widow, and it was kind of similar. Or, like I said, seeing someone who is completely different, like Captain America or Killmonger, or I mean, even the zombies was weird. So, that was a lot of fun for me. What about you?
We should have done a spoiler warning, because I'm sure people haven't seen all these shows. But anyway,
I'll put it in the show notes, in the show description.
My number 6 is Loki.
Okay.
And it's because probably 4, 5, and 6 were tough. Like, they're all right there. They're all right there. And I guess I went with Loki because same thing. It was sort of a slow burn. It had some interesting things. It had a lot of fertile ground for a lot of different theories. But I think
it did.
In the end, for me, it was seeing Jonathan Major as He Who Remains, and the explosion of the possibilities with the multiverse.
Right.
That kind of pushed it up on my list. Okay. And Tom Hiddleston is great. So
yes, very much so.
Yeah, that's why I have it as I have it as 6, but I couldn't go any higher because there were long stretches where I was just kind of bored.
Okay.
Yeah, I have Loki at 6 as well. Yeah, I loved Loki. I thought it was really good, but we were covering it. I think I even said that this is the only show that had like kind of a lull, like that, because with the shows that we were watching before, each episode progressively got better. I think this is the first show for me where when they got to when they were at the planet that was being destroyed, I can't remember the name of it, but at that episode really kind of ground things to a screeching halt for me. It was really slow. There was, I mean, as Anthony says, there was a lot of walking. Why y'all walking? Do something. Stop walking. But I really liked Loki. I like Jonathan Major's portrayal of He Who Remains. I think that and the fact that it set up the splintering of the multiverse is kind of a key thing for everything going forward. But I just feel like my top 5, I have them where they are for a reason. So that just kind of had to put Loki there. So yeah, that's where my number 6 is.
My number 6 is because I haven't seen it. I know exactly what happened in the plot. It sounds awesome. And I anticipated going into my top 3, and that's Spider-Man.
Okay.
I know what happened. Somebody in there passed away that I'm going, no. It sounds like it's a heck of a movie. It just sounds like, okay, my favorite Spider-Man movie is Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire because it was Doc Ock. Doc Ock is my personal favorite. Yeah. So I love Thomas Hayden Church all the way back from Ned and Stacy. Yes, I'm that old. And I loved him as Sandman. I didn't see Jamie Foxx as Electro because I just didn't see those movies. But Spider-Man has a special place in my heart. He's one of my favorites. I know I don't talk about him a whole lot, but that is one of my favorites. And my favorite run, of course, is anything by Dan Slott, writing him. My favorite graphic novel series is Ezekiel's Run, which I thought was awesome. And the different iterations, watching Spider-Man when I was a kid, teenager, Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man and his friends, the Joe Perry one with the theme song. I just love Spider-Man. So because I haven't seen it, because I don't go to the movies, this is a placeholder possibly to move up. And that's my pick.
I can tell you now, it will definitely move up.
It's going to skyrocket up your list. It really is.
Once you see it. Yep. Definitely. Number 5 for me, Hawkeye, and for several different reasons. I mean, obviously kind of like you said, my top 5 is there for a reason, especially the top 3 slots. They're there for specific reasons. But we just got finished covering Hawkeye on this show a few weeks ago. Hawkeye is, I should say specifically, Clint Barton is actually one of my favorite characters in the MCU because of his deadpan humor, his dry humor. Also, just because he's one of the few humans that we get to see interact with the Avengers or be on the Avengers team, interact with all of these threats, and he holds his own. And actually, if you think about a lot of the things that he's done as part of the Avengers, he's very important to the group. And I think he's one of the people that is very undervalued. He's very, he's very much the underdog out of the group. And I think this show maybe not so much showcased him as the Avenger that we're used to seeing him. Yes, we did get some Avenger-like moments, but I think this show was more so the passing of the torch from him as Hawkeye to Kate Bishop as Hawkeye. But we got to see a different version of him. You got to see him as the father. You got to see him as the husband. You got to see him as the mentor, even though, he very adamantly states he is not a role model. But you get to see him on all of these different versions of himself. And I think it was a great way to explore the character. We did finally get to see or hear a little bit more about his friendship with Natasha, which I'm a little bummed that we didn't get more of that within the MCU or even in this show. But his character's not dead. And, Scarlett Johansson is taking care of her issues that she had with Disney. So maybe we can see something in the future that focuses a little bit more on that friendship. But loved seeing him with Kate, even though she got on my nerves at the beginning of the show. By the end of the show, I won't say I was like a big fan of hers, but I could see the potential for how great her character can be. Yelena being part of the show and then getting to see what happened with her because of the post blip, finding out about her wanting to come after Clint because she just didn't know what happened to her sister. She just knew she came back from being blipped and her sister was gone. So getting to see that moment between them for me was very powerful. It also was not long enough. But it was again great character driven show and I enjoyed it a lot.
Well, my number 5 was Wanda Vision.
Okay.
And I enjoyed Wanda Vision. I liked the format. I liked everything they did.
I already know why.
No. It's not down here because of all the failed theories that I no longer believe anymore.
Oh no.
Like all you said, the top 5, there's a reason why they are where they are. And I think the thing that helps WandaVision out for me is just how they dealt with grief and addressing mental health, because I think that's very important. And and that kind of solidifies its place in the pantheon of TV shows for me. It was good. It's just it wasn't good enough to get any higher than 5.
That's only because you're mad because your theories didn't pan out.
No. That maybe a little bit, but no. Well, because the being jerked around by the writers, it wasn't fun.
Yeah.
It ended up not being fun. I don't know if they thought it was going to be fun or if they thought it was cool to put all this stuff in and have us speculate, but it got to be kind of ridiculous. And I know we probably did it to ourselves, but they were intentionally putting things in there that were dead ends that meant nothing. And someone somewhere knew that people were going to do that. And they just fed the flames. And I don't appreciate that.
I don't think they expected it to get to where it got. Like they probably thought, okay, this would be fun. And we talked about this before. They probably thought, oh, this would be fun. This would be nice for the comic book fans to see this Easter egg. And I think it just got a lot bigger than they anticipated. And I will say that maybe in the later shows, they may have corrected that, because where they kind of gave us like little breadcrumbs to follow, they have for the most part panned out. Just like with Loki, Mike was very adamant about Kang or He Who Remains showing up in the show, and you were like, no, they're not going to do that to us, they're not going to do that to us. And then we ended up getting him. And the same with the Hawkeye series, that where we got to see
Kingpin,
Wilson Fisk show up. So I think maybe they've learned their lesson. I don't think that was intentional in a bad way that they did that with WandaVision. I really don't think they expected people to take to it the way that they did.
I know they didn't, but whoever thought it was fun to do all of that, it turns out, no, it's not.
Yeah, I know. What about you, Mike? What you got at number 5?
I have Hawkeye at number 5 as well.
Okay.
Listen, just for being right, it should be for me being right about Kingpin. I should have it at number 1. I just, but I mean, I love this show. But like I said, I have reasons for my rankings. I really, really thought that I have a newfound respect for Clint Barton through this. I actually liked Kate throughout. I think as we've discussed when we talked about it, I mean, she was playing the role that she was. She's playing the role of a rich, affluent kid who's trying to do better and is trying to figure it out. So I pretty much took it for that, and I thought she did a really good job of it. Yelena is my spirit animal. I love her to death, especially putting hot sauce on macaroni and cheese, which it belongs on.
Thank you.
At any rate, yeah, that was good. Stop it. I thought it was a great series, but it's like my top 4 are actually there. I actually just looked at my top 4 again, and I was thinking about rearranging them, but I'm like, nope, I'm gonna leave them because I'm gonna go with what I thought with initially. So that's why but that one would definitely be higher, otherwise. But it's just right there for where it is what it is, basically.
Okay, my pick is What If. It gave me chills because I've been reading What If since I was a kid, and it gave me 2 of the best animated episodes I've ever seen in my life. The first one that just went from high to low to heartbreak and back again was the Doctor Strange episode. Oh my God, that was like the best animation I've seen in years. I mean, Stephen Strange is already a complicated character, and the way that they did it and what happened at the end, I was like, I watched that thing twice in a row the first time I saw it. The second episode that blew me away was the zombie episode. Now, if you read comic books, if you collect comic books, there was a period of time where Marvel basically threw up the zombies on everything. Now, I'm not a big zombie person. I don't watch The Walking Dead or anything like that. I do collect the comic books, though. But the zombie comics, the Marvel zombies, I went all full-fledged in, mainly before the covers. But I loved everything about it. So to see this, it was awesome. The reason it's not higher is because this was our only animated show that we got from them this year that was Marvel related. And I wanted to have something to compare it to. If I could compare it to something, it would be the Star Wars thing that they have on Disney Plus. It's like the mini vinaigrettes or like little short 5 to 7 minute.
Star Wars Visions.
Yes, that would be comparable, but it's not Marvel. So yeah, my pick for this round is What If.
Okay. All right, number 4, getting into the top 4. So I have WandaVision listed as my number 4 for a lot of the reasons that Anthony mentioned for his pick. I loved the way that they approached it, like the way that they started out the show. Of course, WandaVision was the first of the Disney Plus Marvel shows, so it had to set a precedence, and I think it did that in a big way. Just the format of it, coming in as like the the 50s and 60s sitcoms, and at first you're kind of looking at it like, okay, so what exactly are we doing here? And then to find out that this is actually like a manifestation of Wanda's grief, her, you know, being able to deal with the blip, her being able to deal with the death of Vision, and or rather not dealing with it, truthfully, you know, her creating this whole world where they could live happily ever after and not think about it. And the fact that she created this world by accident and wasn't even aware that she had done this at first. And then to see the world kind of fall apart for her, and her having to, one, acknowledge what she's done, and then two, try to fix it, as well as come into her own powers as the Scarlet Witch. It was just an emotional roller coaster watching all of this and having to feel her pain, and at the same time having to look at her and say, Wanda, what you did hurt people. You have to be held accountable to it at some point. And you know, we didn't get a lot of closure with her show because we know we're going to see her again in Doctor Strange, but just having to go on that journey with her and being introduced to some other characters, some good, some not so good. Director Dick is still right there at the top of people that I can't stand, you know, character wise. But the fact that we got to see Jimmy and Darcy again, and we got introduced to Monica and Agatha, it was a really great show. You know, it was a great way to kick off this whole Disney Plus thing with the Marvel series, and hopefully we get to see some of those characters again in other you know, in other shows or movies. But yeah, it was pretty good. It was one of the best that they did last year.
Okay, so my number 4 was What If.
Okay.
Because for a lot of the reasons Lori said, growing up, What If was one of my favorite comic books, and actually see a show that you would never think that this would be something that we would actually have a show about. Seeing T'Challa as Star-Lord was awesome. Strange Supreme was incredible. Captain Carter, it's like I just go on and on and on about all the different versions of these characters, and I just thought it was fabulous. And I thought it was a good addition to the end of Loki, was to see the possibilities of a multiverse, and what we can do with that, and the potential there for them bringing new characters across multiverses. Like the fact that the Watcher took a Black Widow, took a Natasha who didn't have anyone, and put them with a world where then Natasha was gone. I mean, just imagine the possibilities.
Yeah.
Especially with the Black Panther and needing a new T'Challa, that we could get another T'Challa from another unit. It's just, my mind is just exploding with all the possibilities. But yet it's number 4. So that's it. That's all I'm gonna say. I really liked it. I really enjoyed watching it.
Okay.
Before I say this one, I just want to explain that 2 through 4 are basically 2A, 2B, and 2C. Like, they're completely interchangeable. Like, tomorrow I could change my mind and switch them all up. Number 4 for me is Captain America and Winter Soldier. Now, I love this show. Like, there are so many moments that hit me in my heart, that had me in tears, that had me cheering, had me on the edge of my seat. There was so much action. There was so much like really good fight sequences. Like some of the best fight choreography this year. Like, especially with the Dora Milaje beating up Great Value Cap and making him cry. That was awesome.
That was one of the best scenes ever.
It really was. And seeing Sam in that suit, like, ooh, I still get chills just seeing it. But like I said, there's a reason I have these layered the way they are. But not to say that I didn't enjoy it more than the shows and movies above it. It's just that there's a method to my madness, even though it might not seem like it. But I did really like it. I'm really looking forward to Sam's movie later this year. Like I'm really I need that like in a hurry. But yeah, Captain and the Winter Soldier is my number 4.
My number 4 is Hawkeye. The reason why it's number 4, even though I raged about the LARPers, is that I once again think that Natasha and Clint got the short end because they were the last of the Avengers to get anything individually done for their characters.
Mhm.
I am highly disappointed because I believe that if Natasha can get a movie, Hawkeye should have got a movie. But instead he got a Disney Plus TV series, which is fine. And it was entertaining. And I did like Echo. And I did like the mom. And I liked the whole thing with the kids and Christmas. And I loved it more than I thought I was going to love it. It's not in the top 3 because they did a few things that had me go, but it does stand out because I was watching it with my husband. And Mark said to me, he says, this is quietly one of the best things that they have done this year because he goes, I didn't know I needed a Hawkeye series in my life. And I have to agree. The other thing that really got me is that they did something that was so jaw-droppingly horrible and awesome at the same time is the final episode end credit where they did a full 10-minute song from Rogers the Musical.
It wasn't that long. It was like 4 minutes.
Oh, it was longer than that. And my husband turns to me and he says to me with a completely straight face, don't ever show that to me again. No, I mean it. I will divorce you. Don't ever show that to me again.
It felt like 10 minutes of torture. It really did.
You were watching all day.
He turned to me and he was like, we're not showing this to any of the nieces and nephews. No, we're not. He goes, no, we're not doing it. So I'm laughing at him and I'm watching this and I love musicals and I'm going, oh, the fact that they actually put time and pen to pad to do this. So that made it number 4.
I'm just going to say
they choreographed it. They wrote the music. They wrote lyrics.
I'm waiting for Dragon Con because somebody is going to do a Rogers the Musical cosplay and someone will probably do that whole musical. I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting.
There's going to be a flash mob. There's going to be a flash mob.
Exactly. There are going to be so many Rogers the Musical flash mobs showing just popping up out of nowhere.
I'm just waiting for it. I think someone already posted something in the Dragon Con Facebook group and they was like, hey, we need somebody to play this character.
Oh, geez.
I'm just waiting for it.
Oh, yeah.
It was cringeworthy, yes, but I'm waiting for it. I think I need to see it live in cosplay at Dragon Con and then I'll be good. I don't ever have to see it again. But it was a fun way to end the series.
It was interesting, but the other final note is that I loved Hawkeye because he gave me at the end Kingpin, and I love Kingpin, and to see him portrayed the correct way, power wise, and the fact that Vincent Forno, whatever his name is, come back from the Netflix series and to transition over to Disney Plus because they're doing a lot with the Netflix characters. I was so happy because he's an amazing actor and he's consistent. And I was like, yes, I have this thing about not sticking the landing on books and movies at the end. They stuck the landing on this one. So that's why it's my number 4.
Okay. All right. Down to the top 3. So my number 3 had to kind of go back and forth between these two, but I'm going to have to say number 3 for me is Shang-Chi.
Wow. Wow. I'm shocked.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Me too.
I'm shocked.
I'm really shocked.
You know what? It's as far as the movies, it is in my top 2 movies because you guys know when it first came out, it was like at the top of the list for me because I feel like it was one of the better origin stories done in the MCU. But I love this movie because it gave a Asian representation. It had the martial arts. It had Michelle Yeoh. Simu Liu has become one of my favorite people, like one of my favorite celebrities in the films, on the internet. Like he's one of those people that just kind of, he emits like this wholesomeness. I don't know if I want to say wholesomeness, but he's just so joyful. Just everything he posts, and when you see him online and at different things that he's on, he's just so happy and he exudes that happiness. And that's something that I love. And what he brought to his character, and not just him, but all of the actors, what they brought to their characters. The storyline was great for me because you have this, first of all, they corrected that bullshit from Iron Man 3. So let's talk about that. Bringing Sir Ben Kingsley back as Trevor Slattery and explaining his whole Mandarin farce and explaining it in a way that actually made sense for the story. That was fun. He was like one of the best parts of the film. Just him being Trevor Slattery, the actor who probably, whose elevator didn't always go up to the top stair, him talking about the Planet of the Apes and thinking that the monkeys were, that was hilarious. But I loved his character. His character had a lot of heart. The villain that they made Mandarin / Wenwu, and the fact that he wasn't a villain because he was being evil, he just wanted his wife back. And he just wanted his family to be whole again. And to go through that realization and see his journey, and I guess the fact that he held on to that so hard to the point where he made an enemy of his children. And, for him to finally realize it at the end when it's too late. And then, he gives his son the 10 rings, and to see Shang-Chi come into that power. That was just amazing. That whole movie was emotional for me on so many levels. And then, to talk about Xialing, his sister, who basically, in Asian culture, she's the female, so she can't do what the men do. And she's not, her value is not as important as her brothers, but she comes into her own. She runs away. She starts her own fight ring, and she just makes a name for herself, and her story is so powerful. I mean, we've talked about this on the thing. I know I'm rambling, but that movie was so, so incredibly special. And if it wasn't for the other two things, I definitely would have ranked this a little higher, but I think it's top 3. So that's pretty high praise, I feel like.
Yeah, for me, number 3 was Falcon and Winter Soldier. I.e. Captain America and Winter Soldier, like Mike said, because the emotional impact on so many levels, like addressing race and addressing the things that we're dealing with now, addressing the economic inequalities, addressing mental health. There's just so many different things. The veterans and how we treat veterans, all of those things in this show was just amazing. And it was difficult to rank 1, 2, and 3 for me, but I think 3 for me is appropriate for the Falcon and Winter Soldier for those reasons. It impacted me the most emotionally as a TV show, not quite as high as 1 and 2 for me, you'll see, but it was all of the things that it hit was very important. And I had to put it at number 3 just because of Nemo doing his dance in the club. I mean, how can it not be, that high, So that's all.
Yeah. My number 3 is also Shang-Chi. I was blown away. Shang-Chi definitely had the best fight choreography this year, like by far. The fight choreography was so on point. And just like Hanako said, like for it to represent the Asian community as honestly and as non caricature, not see doing it as
Yes.
a caricature, but actually representing how they really representing the Asian culture as it really is was vitally important. Like they could have easily with Shang-Chi, they could have easily done this as a typical kung fu movie, and there's a whole lot of whoa, and all that shit. But they didn't. It's like they actually put in like real family issues and things that happen in everyday families and that with everyday people into this movie that has extraordinarily powered people and things like that, and extraordinary supernatural things as well. And it just, I mean, the movie was just, it literally, if it wasn't for a certain other movie, it probably would have been close to number one for me, just because it was, I mean, the effects blew me away. The acting was outstanding. Serbian Kingsley was funny as shit. Aquafina was really good in this movie, and I really appreciate the fact that they didn't just make her and Shang a couple, like right off the bat, just be like, okay, y'all together, but they're still friends. I think that's awesome. So yeah, that's my number 3.
My number 3 was a toss-up because I loved the way that the things were done, because I'm a huge nerd. As everyone knows, I have a bachelor's degree in history, so I love anything historic, anything iconic, anything retro. So my number 3 pick, because I Love Lucy, Dick Van Dyke Show, all that stuff, was WandaVision. The story was amazing, but I'm telling you right now, the way that they did those throwbacks, those shout out, whatever you want to call it, to the old iconic shows, and they went decade by decade, was awesome. This list that I have is basically sort of a merging of me and Mark, because Mark's not on the podcast, but we talk about the podcast and stuff. So this is what we sort of agreed on together as far as our list. One or two things different. he watched the last 2 episodes, and he was looking at me and he's like, this is amazing. He didn't want to go back and watch the beginning because he doesn't like black and white. But he said to me, he goes, okay, this is what I come through with this. He goes, Wanda and Vision. He said, those 2 are my favorite characters. Favorite character is Vision. We've got a Vision statue in the living room and stuff like that. So it's his thing. He's got all the graphic novels. He was like, I didn't know that I wanted to see this. Because whenever we watched the MCU films, he was always like, there's Wanda, there's Vision. But when he saw it, he was like, oh my God, this is amazing. When I saw it, I didn't love the middle. I didn't like Kat Dennings that much. But when we get...
Sorry, what?
I'm sorry. I'm a girl. Okay.
And
and I like Jimmy Woo a lot more, because I watched him on that one show, and I think he's kind of hot. But anyway, so the thing is that the middle was okay, but when you got to the end, so the beginning and the end, I'm watching this thing and I'm going, oh, this is good. Oh, this is good, because this was the first Disney Plus series that we got. So my thing was that they did such a good job. Agatha, Agatha, all along, the whole little song, the whole thing about that, the whole thing, maybe Mephisto, the ending. So this is, quite frankly, my favorite thing that they have done. I've got 2 others, but as far as style, I couldn't make it number 1 because it dipped in the middle. But yeah, top 3, WandaVision.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, top 2. So for me, I mean, if you have been keeping up, you can kind of see what's left on the list. So of course, for me, Falcon and the Winter Soldier is number 2. Anybody who has talked to me for any number of minutes will know that Sam and Bucky are like, that's my favorite dynamic in all of the MCU. from the time that they first met each other and didn't like each other because Bucky was on the wrong side of things to now. They've always been my favorite dynamic. That did not change with this show. We got to see a lot more of it. We got to see them work through their trauma together and separately, and then become like this buddy system together. You know, one of the things that kind of bonded them was the fact that they both had the same best friend, albeit from different points in their lives. And now, without that buffer, Steve Rogers being there, who are these two characters separately and together? We got to see that in some beautiful ways with this show. Aside from everything that Mike and Anthony mentioned as far as the issues that they tackled and all of this stuff, you got to see two males have deep conversations, talking about their trauma, talking about their mental health issues. And you got, and we don't get to see that a lot, represented a lot in media. So the fact that you got this with these characters, we got to see some of the issues, like you said, in these characters being who they are and what they are. You know, one pivotal scene is the police scene where Sam and Bucky are on the street, they're arguing, and the police come over and they automatically assume that Sam is the aggressor in the argument. And, you know, even after Bucky says, yo, why are you questioning him? Like, do you not know who he is? Like, we're just having a conversation. Like, those are things that we see happening in our day and age now, and they affect our communities a lot. And for them to put those things on the screen so boldly, you know, they didn't sugarcoat anything with any of that, with with all of the blipped people coming back and trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to put these people back in their places? And then, you know, seeing the other people displaced, seeing resources being stretched. You have a quote unquote villain in Carly Morgenthau, who really isn't a villain. She's trying to make sure that everybody is treated fairly. And, you know, she's fighting for the people who are being pushed to the side. And she doesn't really become a true villain until towards the end of the series, when she actually starts killing people to make her point. But still, you have these characters who represented real issues. And again, they didn't shy away from these issues. They put them front and center. And we had a lot of people who complained about it. They complained about the show being woke. They complained about the show focuses so much on race. And it's kind of like, for those very reasons, that's why that show still remains my favorite Disney Plus show to date. And then, of course, Sam becoming Captain America, that was just the cherry on top of everything. Like, he was able to not just fulfill the destiny that Steve left him with, because that was what Steve wanted. He did it on his own terms, and he did it in a way that felt right and true to who he is as a person. And I love the fact that we got to see that. So yeah, Falcon and Winter Soldier #2, that's like, it's going to be hard for them to come up with a show that's going to top the way I feel about that one.
Okay. I still say the most powerful scene was when, well, one of the most powerful scenes was when Bucky told Sam, you know, if he was wrong about you, what does that say about me?
Yeah.
You know, that
hits.
That hits hard for Bucky's character. My number 2 is Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Wow.
It's number 2 because nostalgia. It's number 2 because I've never seen fan service done so well in any genre, any show, any movie ever.
Right.
Made it part of the story, made it work. The story was great. The emotions that you feel throughout the movie is just, it was intense. I think I saw it 3 times in 6 days, which, you know, emotionally is a lot for a movie like that. It's once Lori had said that League of Extraordinary Gentlemen was like the most perfect comic book movie.
It is.
Nah, Spider-Man: No Way Home. Clearly.
There's room for more than one.
Clearly.
More than one could be a perfect movie.
That's hilarious. Okay. So WandaVision is my number 2. There's a reason. Okay. I look at my list and I'm like, can I put Captain America higher? Why do I have WandaVision higher than that one? And I keep coming back to the same reasons. WandaVision was first. And I think that it did a hell of a job setting the stage for the whole year last year. I mean, that's a hell of a way to introduce doing what they were doing well, Marvel, as ambitious of an undertaking that they did last year with the pandemic, with everything else going against them. Mm-hmm. This show started it off. If this show sucks, Marvel's in deep shit. If this show doesn't hit the mark, Marvel's in deep shit. It's just like when we talk about certain movies in the DC universe, like the movie didn't hit and it fucked the whole universe up. That could have happened here, but it didn't. And that's why I have it at number 2, because that's a lot. It's just like if you, okay, small tangent. One of my favorite shows ever is a show called The Sing Off. It's a competition show with a lot of a cappella groups. That's where Pentatonics came from. Blah blah blah. That was still one of my favorite shows. I still go down YouTube rabbit holes every now and then. There was a group on there called Delilah. They sang "What Do You Want From Me," the Adam Lambert song. This girl comes out first and just sings a cappella. It starts it off. Now, if she's off by like a note or two, that fucks the whole shit up. Mm-hmm. But if she's spot on, the girl that comes on after her sings and harmonizes with her, like kind of makes everything meld together. And I think that's what WandaVision did. It's like it came out, it hit all the notes. I mean, the scene that still sticks with me, which is weird, it's like I didn't think this. There are a lot of moments in here that stick with me, but the absolute heart-wrenching grief that she had when she was at the home site, when everything just exploded from her, grief just exploded from her and took over the whole town, and she built Vision from basically heartbreak. She constructed him out of heartbreak, and that was incredible to me. Not to mention everything else that was great with it, Darcy, Monica Rambeau, and all the things that it actually opened the door and led to. And there were certain things that affected me more, but this one is just for the fact that it set everything up to succeed is my number 2.
My number 2 is Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi is normally a Marvel street level character, along with Luke Cage, Danny Rand, Iron Fist. I am going to sadly be 50 at the end of this one. But I'm also glad that I've lived long enough, because I got to enjoy some of these awesome comics in the mid 70s when I learned how to read up, until now. So my thing is that I've always loved the street level characters that weren't necessarily traditional superheroes. That Daredevil, believe it or not, falls in that category for me. Yeah. So Shang-Chi is this awesome guy, and he's just, I never thought, first of all, that in my lifetime that I would get any of these characters as TV characters. So when Iron Fist came out on Netflix, when Luke Cage came out on Netflix, Jessica Jones, Daredevil, Punisher, especially when they did the Defenders, I still watch the Defenders going, oh, could have been better, but it was still pretty darn good. So yeah. I don't go to the movies for a couple of reasons. 1, COVID. 2, my husband is visually impaired. He can't necessarily see the screen the way that you and I would see the screen, so we just don't go. So I had to wait until November to see this movie, or the end of October. And we sit down and I'm watching this and I'm like, oh my God. And I love Awkwafina, she's like one of my favorite people in the entire world. I think she's hysterical. And then they get to the scene where she's explaining to her grandmother that they're just friends. And then they go and they get on this bus. Now, you guys have heard the thing about the raid, about Daredevil, how the hallway scenes are always like the ish.
Mm-hmm.
This was their version of the hallway scene. I mean, from the beginning to the end to the middle, the jacket, Simalu did that. The fact that it was so awesome. Now, I love Speed. Speed, for those of you who are very, very young, long time ago, Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock did a movie called Speed. Okay? They actually did Speed too, where the premise is she's on a bus, she's behind the bus, he's kicking ass, taking names. They can't stop the bus will explode. This was done 3-4 times better. I loved it. The fact that we got a different type of movie, because usually with kung fu movies, you have the different types of kung fu, the different types of storytelling. There's hardcore with the whole monkey tree elder guy, and then you have the mythical with the unicorns and all that stuff. This was more of the unicorns and that type of stuff. Michelle Yeoh, the fact that they went to this mythical land, the fact that you, like they said, Ben Kingsley as the Mandarin, quote unquote, the father, it was absolutely. I watched it, and then I watched it again with my husband, and then after we got done, I watched it a third time in one day. I have been wanting this movie since I was 7 years old. So Shang-Chi, number 2.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So number 1 movie. Gotta do our drum roll. But I think it's no surprise for me. Spider-Man No Way Home was at the top of my Marvel list for last year. We get into detail on it about it in our podcast, so I'm not going to say too much here because Lori hasn't seen it yet.
I know what happened. You can talk.
Oh, okay. So I don't even know where to start with this one. Everybody who's listened, they know that I actually have not seen the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies. Mm-hmm. For reasons now that seem so stupid. No, I haven't had time. I'm planning on doing that probably next weekend. But seeing the 3 Spider-Men together, and like you said, Anthony, this was fan service done right. You got to see all 3 of these Spider-Men. They brought their own, I don't want to say they brought their own issues, but they all had their own things to be dealing with in this film. And you got to see them deal with these things in a really, really beautiful way. And it was heartbreaking. It was inspirational. I have to see the movies now because Andrew Garfield was like one of the best parts of this film. Just his comedic timing and the way that he was with the guys. I read in an interview just a couple of days ago that whole line where he's with Peter 1 and Peter 2, and he's like, "I love you guys." That was actually improvised. And he said it was just said in the moment because that's how he felt at that moment. And it was funny in the film because the guys are looking at him like, thanks. But now it's like they weren't expecting the line. So the fact that they both responded in the same way, that was just, it was funny. It was beautiful. Getting to see Peter 3, Andrew's Peter, make his save of MJ, which that's the only thing I know about his movies. And that's only because my daughter showed me that one specific scene about Gwen's death. So to see that and the emotions that his character had when he was able to get it right this time, that was so impactful. Seeing the 3 Spider-Men run off the Statue of Liberty, yell, yoo-hoo, woohoo, and swing together in tandem in different ways, and then to do that landing with all 3 of it was just, when I tell y'all, I cried so many times during this movie. It was so exciting. It was very emotional. Being able to watch it in a movie theater and see the fan reaction when the reveal of Toby and the reveal of Andrew came, that was great. Now, it wasn't, for me, it wasn't end game level great, because I don't know what it was. I think the first time I went to go see it, Anthony and I went to go see it together, and the fan reaction was very minimal. And then the second time I went to go see it, I did like Anthony. I went to go see it 3 times in 4 days. I saw it Thursday night, Friday night, and Sunday. The second time I went to go see it, the fan reaction was better. The third time I went to go see it, there was no fan reaction whatsoever, except for whispers like, oh my God, is that going to be? So that part of it, I felt like could be better. But I mean, and then, I'm sorry, our Spider-Man, Tom, seeing what he has to go through and the sacrifices that he makes in this film just to fix everything that's going on, not for himself, but for everybody else that's affected. That was so heartbreaking. And yeah, I just, people have said this before. The first 2 movies, it didn't feel like he was the main character in his own film. And whatever they lacked in those first 2 films, you really feel like they made up for it in this third film. Like, it was phenomenal. But I mean, seeing the 3 Spider-Man together, and that was just, it was just amazing. It was just mind-blowing for me. And yeah, easily the best Spider-Man film for me, probably the best MCU film right now for me. So yeah, that topped my 2021 for Marvel.
Okay, well, my number 1 is Shang-Chi. Mm-hmm. And it's number 1 because
I'm actually kind of shocked.
What? You're not shocked?
I'm kind of shocked about
that. I'm not.
Well, if you I don't see why. I mean, the cultural significance of this movie is only surpassed by the cultural significance of the Black Panther. And for all the things Hanako said, the representation for the Asian community, the fact that they took the care and the time in having people from the community and the culture working on the movie, being involved with the movie, making sure everything was the way it was supposed to be. Everything, all the shows on the list contribute, all the shows and movies on my list contribute something. And I feel like last year Shang-Chi had everything in this one movie. Mm-hmm. The social awareness, the nostalgia, the culture. I mean, all those things, mental health, everything. His father's grief and how he dealt with his grief. It seemed like there was a running theme for me last year was having to deal with grief and having to. The movie was very powerful on so many different levels for me, and that's why I have it number 1.
Okay.
For me, Doi Spidey. I mean, come on, from Charlie Cox, from Matt Murdock showing up early in the movie, like, excuse me, and from like all the whole thing with Ned making the circles and getting Spider-Man through, and from Aunt May saying the line and becoming Uncle Ben, like, there are so many moments, and just like Anthony said, it's basically it's definitely fan service, like, it's definitely just like for us. They didn't make that movie for any other reason but to have us go absolutely apeshit in the theater. That's it. I mean, for everything that they did in it, I mean, short of having Kingpin show up there somehow, or having, like, the Punisher like doing something. I mean, short of that, this movie was just outstanding. It was well shot. It set up everything for the future, and I just really, really, I'm still blown away by it. Like, I mean, the whole thing, like, I mean, it was just a great movie, and it definitely helped me in the year on a reasonably positive note. So yeah, that's my number one.
Okay.
My number one movie or TV show, Marvel MCU, is Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Now, I went back and forth on this because the cultural significance, the idea of them setting up Young Avengers, the concept of them bringing in ideas from the MCU, the last movies with Sam, with Bucky. I literally love this from the moment I laid eyes on it. I mean, the first episode is awesome. It didn't drop. It didn't lag. It gave me everything. It brought up a couple obscure characters that I thought, huh, that's interesting. The therapy, the fact that they were best friends independently to the same person, and that happened in my real life. I was best friends with somebody who was also best friends at the same time with someone else, and me and her never got along. We're good now, but back then we couldn't stand each other because each of us claimed that person as our best friend. So I got that, and that really hit me deep. The thing that really did it for me was that they gave us aspects of Sam that I never knew. He's from Louisiana. I never would have pegged that. Okay. The girl being a refugee. I thought, huh, that's interesting. The fact that you've got the Baron, the fact that they brought in, the test subject Isaiah Bradley, for Super Soldier. The way that they filmed it, the way that they shot the scenes, the way that they had the emotional with the bank, whether, how do you guys get paid? It was right after WandaVision, and WandaVision was still in my mind. But when I saw this, I said to several people that I know who listen to me talk about stuff, that this is probably the best entry that Disney Plus could possibly do for a MCU show, because while WandaVision was 99.99% perfect, Falcon and the Winter Soldier was 100% perfect. It hit all the notes. It hit the highs. It hit the lows. Just the montage of Sam practicing with the shield is enough for me to vote it as number one. Now, I've been known not to be a huge, I like certain things, but I don't normally say Cap's my favorite. Cap is up there, but I like Iron Man more. But this right here, this was fire. This was the thing that had me go, okay, I'm not canceling my Disney Plus membership, because I was very close. And I was like, I'm keeping it. Because if they can give me this for the next year or so, Star Wars stuff aside, I'm in, because I don't have children. And I am an adult woman who is willingly watching Disney Plus. They're getting my $8, $9, whatever dollars a month, and it's well spent. Because this, what do you say, Mike? Chef's kiss? This is what this was. So yeah, my number one, Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting to see where, where some of us had the same ranking for some, and then kind of the difference for the others. But
yeah, I kind of feel like I put What If a little bit too low. Just thinking about it, I'm like, I probably should have put it like at number 6. But
and I think I surprised you guys with my number one.
No, I was thinking about it. It's your opinion. I can definitely see where Captain America and the Winter Soldier could be number one, like 100%.
Like it definitely would have been it would have been number 1 or 2 for me, as far as, because I had Shang-Chi so high up.
Right.
But yeah, Spider-Man just kind of knocked everything down a peg. So once you watch it, Lori, your ranking will probably change.
I know.
Yeah.
Because like I said, the thing with Spider-Man, either you do a good Spider-Man or you don't.
Right.
There's no in between.
And this
Yeah.
one was amazing, you know. So
Spectacular.
yeah, it was
Amazing,
all of those
spectacular.
things. It was all of those things. So yeah, Marvel did good last year as far
They
as,
did
you
their
know,
thing.
with them releasing the Disney Plus shows, and what they were able to get in the theaters. I mean, can you imagine what this would have been like had there not been a pandemic? Like,
And see, that's the thing. My issue with the pandemic with Disney Plus, and this is my only gripe that I'm going to have about MCU for last year, is that I'm homebound, meaning I work from home, I take my husband to work, and that's it. I do Instacart, I do Amazon Fresh. I might go to the grocery store every 3 months. So I see no one, I go nowhere. So when I told my husband I'm spending the $30 to get Shang-Chi on my TV, and he goes, no, wait, I says, I gotta pre-order it. The day I was gonna pre-order, they said, hi, we're not gonna do that. I was pissed.
yeah.
So then I have to wait until October. We watch it, and I was like, oh my God, this is so good. Mark turns to me, he goes, yeah, I can see why you're upset that you didn't pre-order. Because for people like me who are not out there, because like you said, Hanako, California is sort of up there with the numbers and stuff. I can't go where you guys go. You guys are going here, you're going there, you're going here. I'm like, I went to Walgreens today. That was the highlight of my last 3 months. And I mean it, because I'm still not going anywhere. So Disney's model of pre-ordering or ordering. Now, I got Black Widow. Okay. I don't mind spending $30. I don't mind, hell, spending $40, not 50 because I'm cheap. $40. The fact that I can see the movie as much as I want, and I can do it in the privacy of my own home. Now, we saw Dune because I have HBO. We saw Suicide Squad, again, HBO. I like the fact that as an adult woman, I can sit in the privacy of my own home, turn on my TV in the living room, and watch first run movies. When I say I was giddy that I was able to see Dune, I was giddy. Disney has a problem. Disney is greedy, and we know this. Disney needs to understand that people like me who will go to Disneyland with no children and drop X amount of money on a hotel room at their main hotel for 2 days just because we wanted to go to Disney. You tell me you're going to have to do this, you're going to have to do that. Guess what? My money isn't going to go to Disney. My money, if I could go, is going to go to Vegas, or as my husband calls it, adult Disney. Okay. Disney has a problem because they're not connecting with the people who are still being cautious because of COVID, who still are in this mode, or maybe I can't go here, but I want this. HBO, love it. Why? HBO doesn't ask me to pay X amount of money for this. HBO is $15 a month. You can see your movies, 30 days, like it, see it, move on or not. Disney, I have some issues because I know the model of seeing movies first run is probably going to change to where it's all going to be after the fact because of the lawsuit, Scarlett Johansson, because of the whole pandemic, and because of the numbers. The numbers aren't going to, quote unquote, lie, but the numbers are going to be impacted 18 months from now when they realize that people like me were the backbone of what made you have a $60 million weekend for Black Widow. Done with my rant.
Tell them how you really feel, Lori.
I'm just saying.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
I think Scarlett Johansson scared them. I think that lawsuit scared them because as soon as that lawsuit was filed, they changed their mind about Shang-Chi and all the other things they were going to do.
Yeah, but I don't know. We'll see because this pandemic doesn't look like it's going anywhere.
Morbius got moved because of it.
Yeah. Morbius got moved. We were supposed to be seeing Morbius in a couple of weeks, and now it's April.
It might get moved again.
Yeah, now, I hope things don't get worse because I'm supposed to get Doctor Strange my birthday weekend. I really I haven't been able to have a birthday weekend for 2 years now because of COVID.
Try
So-
turning 50 in 3 weeks and you can't have a birthday
Oh
party.
yeah, I know that sucks. That sucks. But
Oh,
But the flip side of that is Spider-Man is now like one of the highest grossing movies of
this is true.
all time.
This is
Yeah.
true. This is true.
That's
Go
crazy.
Zendaya. Hanako, here's the thing. Movies, because you do it more than me. You always have. The birthday weekend movie thing is a thing that is actually pretty darn cool if you can do it. But with the pandemic, it's almost as if it's like I would feel guilty because it's like, okay, do I go? Do I not go? But other people other than me who are turning 50 in this month, what's the long term of this? Because how many more years are we going to have to? I mean, my birthday party, I'm actually planning it. So I'm going to have a 50+2 birthday party in 2 years. And that's going to be hopefully my official party where I actually have people that can actually see face to face. That's what I'm planning. What's going to happen in the long run? Because Disney, HBO, New Line, whatever, they can't keep this up and keep that, because the worse it gets, we're on our third variant, possibly a fourth. We're on our third shot, even though they call it a booster. How long is this going to, is our world going to be this way until 2025? Is it going to be beyond? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I just happen to be lucky as far as birthday weekends because my birthday falls the first weekend of May, and that's usually when tentpole season starts.
Right.
So for years, all of the major Marvel movies for summer, they always debut that weekend. So I've always like all of the X-Men movies I got during my birthday weekend, most of the Marvel stuff. So Black Widow was supposed to come out on my birthday, I think last year. And I think maybe the year before that, because I can't remember.
Yeah,
it was supposed to come out 2019, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Or 2020, I think, early 2020.
No, 2019, because I believe Black Widow actually came out 3 years later than it was supposed to.
Okay. So yeah, it's just been one of those things, but I kind of wonder that question myself, Lori, because, for a minute we thought things were getting a little bit better. And then now we have this new variant and things have been getting worse. And like you said, Anthony, Spider-Man had really good numbers in the movie theaters for, I think they've surpassed I don't even know what the numbers are now, but now it's just kind of like everybody's getting sick. So yeah, it's good that we all went to the theaters, but people are getting sick because of that.
While we could.
Right. But I don't know. I know that we are supposed to get some more Marvel properties this year. I know some have been delayed, but I don't know. I hope they keep producing, these great shows on Disney Plus. But I think, I don't know if they're already moving Morbius, and Morbius was supposed to be at the beginning of this year. I think a lot of the things that we were supposed to get this year may also end up getting moved. So I'm not sure. I don't know. I just hope we continue to get great quality content from Marvel. We do have some things coming up this year, so I'm sure we'll be able to get hopefully we'll have enough stuff to do another top 10 at the end of the year for Marvel.
So too.
I think we will, but I think it might be more of the Disney Plus shows. The cameo trailer came out today. They showed Ms. Marvel. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Okay. No, I haven't seen it yet, but
they showed a little bit of She-Hulk and a couple of the other shows. But yeah, they showed Kamala in the costume, and she looks basically 12, 13, and it looks pretty good.
Okay.
It's only like 5 seconds maybe.
Okay. All right. Well,
I think when I was doing my research for our list, I swear I saw that Miss Marvel was supposed to come out at the end of 2021, and it didn't.
Marvels, yeah.
Yeah, I think it got
I think that's right.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll get that this year and not in 2023. But
I just want to see She-Hulk.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to see that one because Tatiana Maslany is in it, and I'm so excited to see her in that role. So.
Oh, you think I gushed about Dune? Wait till I give you my 10-minute breakdown of She-Hulk.
Did you say 10-minute breakdown?
Yes, I did. Because we need to talk about.
I can't wait for Moon Knight.
She-Hulk.
I
All you
need-
need to know about She-Hulk is she's Bruce Banner's cousin and had a blood transfusion. That's all you need to know.
You know
No. We need to talk
And she's
about
a
her.
lawyer. That's it.
No. We need to talk about her and Sabretooth.
No, we don't.
Yes, we do.
No, we don't.
And she has mildly loose morals. Like as far
Again,
as,
her and Sabretooth.
her and Juggernaut, like actually destroying your
Oh
house.
my goodness. No, we are not about to get started on this tangent. That is going to be it for our show.
And on that note,
you can find us online at www.fandomhybrid.com. We are on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Fandom Hybrid. You can also find us on YouTube and all major podcast streaming platforms. Thanks for listening. We hope you join the conversation next time.